So if you're here, you may have heard that Affinity Publisher Beta has launched, and it's available for desktop for Mac and PC at this time. It's a free beta. You see already I have an issue. It quit unexpectedly, so I'll have to reopen the app. And essentially it's a very, very beta, very dry run for the Affinity Serif team for the app. Plenty to come with it, I'm sure. So they do have a forum post that you can go and report bugs or anything you find that's kind of odd. Or features you wish you had, something like that over there. So feel free to do that. You're welcome to do it on Affinicasts as well, and I can voice those opinions back at the Affinity team for you. From here, we can check out the app itself. So I've downloaded it already. I have it open, and we've got the welcome screen. Affinity Publisher features that orange gradient now, so I can start by introducing it as a very close clone of Adobe InDesign. So if you're coming from Adobe world, likely many of you might be, for the sake of now there is 3 apps that do pretty much what you would need in a full print, vector, or bitmap editing, photo editing process. For my own work, I would always have to deal with at least hanging on to InDesign, and that's just one thing I'm so thankful that the Affinity team saw as an opportunity to create. So now that Publisher is coming, I don't necessarily need it anymore, the Adobe apps. So that's great. And I think that's a lot of the feedback I'm hearing from other people in the same boat. So with that said, we can create a new document just to show you some examples of what this thing can do. So as you see to the left, when you're opening a app for the first time, you're greeted with master pages and pages. And if you're new to the InDesign world or not, Publisher is very similar, like I said, so it's got those same concepts, which is great. It's less to learn as you port over to the app. When you create a new document, there'll be a checkbox here for facing pages. If you click that, you can actually create facing pages in your document going forward. What I wish here was the amount of pages as opposed to doing it after this step. It seems like an extra step I don't really need to do, but maybe that's coming. So I'll create a document, and maybe I'll start with the master page too. So a new master page, we'll use this icon here. And again, that icon isn't quite clear what it does. I wish that was a little more prominent as well. So we'll just call this master A. I kind of wish it also named it by default, and then you can change it. But at the same time, I really like the ability to edit it. I think InDesign just makes it a set name that you can rename later. So we use facing pages, and you can add bleeds. Fortunately, they don't show in the actual mockup from what I could tell. We can experiment here and see what happens. I bet it does conversions though, so 0.25 inches. Yeah, 6.4. So I'll set that up, and we've got our dimensions in millimeters, page preset of A4 for print. So say you're going to do a magazine design or something like that. This is how you could approach it. So you've got your master page, your pages, which will reflect your master page itself. So say I want to add more pages. Maybe I'll do just 10. And I could ask or select which master I want. So I'll use master A and hit OK. Yeah, it looks like it didn't create 10. I think I might have typed that wrong. So we'll do 8 after page 1. Looks like there's a little bug there, so I'll leave that alone. So I'll hit OK. Now we have 8 pages, 11 total. So great. In fact, I'll delete that last one. So now we have a closing leaf. Okay, so for the master page, here's where you can edit everything and have access to things like page numbers or just a global style of stuff that you can insert. So the text dropdown will have a lot of things you can do within this app that isn't in Designer or Photo. You can insert page numbers and everything in this mode too. So what we'll need to do is actually draw some text to do page numbers. So I'll go ahead and create that. Let's draw a text frame. You'll leave it bare for now. So I'll do text, insert page number. And it by default starts with 1. Duplicate this. Option shift clicking, you'll see it is 2 over here, which is perfect. So we'll align that to just that margin for now. I'll right align this one, And then the beautiful thing about master pages, if you're not familiar, is you can go down to your pages now and hopefully see those. Looks like our master didn't update, so I'll save that. I'll save it on my desktop. Okay, so I have this saved. Let's double check it's gonna work here. Okay, so it doesn't start on the first page, but it does on the second. So with your page numbers intact, you now see those on all of your following pages, minus your first page. So you see that going down, which is great. Love it. So with the master pages, we can do tons of unique edits that just append to everything. So if I were to add a image of some sort, something to do with like this one, maybe it's just throughout. I don't know why it would be, but you could place it and just have it on each page going forward except that first page. So maybe we'll have it like here, and you go down to the second page, third page, it'll have it right next to the bind. So I'm going to go back and remove that for now. Placing images is great as well. If you go into a basic page and you want to have a placeholder picture frame tool, you can set a series of what look like placeholders and just go ahead and maybe duplicate that across the way. And what you can do is place multiple images within these things. So you could either go ahead and use that frame place picture tool again and go and select a particular image, or you can select more than one and do the same. It's going to open up a new dialog that says place images. And then as you hover over each placeholder and select each image, you can see what that would look like. And it's really cool. So I think I'll put that one there and then that one there. So now we have this access to this in this spread, which makes it look very cool. The cool thing about placed images and images in general, you can decide how they fill a frame. And by default, there's certain ways to do so. But you can actually do the properties and adjust it to either scale to max fit, which is currently set as scale to min, stretch to fit, or just have none. So you can actually apply the anchor to the central point or lower right, all those things too, which carry over from Photo Designer as well. So some of these things are shared across apps. Other things are definitely unique to Publisher. Text itself is pretty neat too. So you can do a lot with the text frame tool now. So if you want to enter just some basic filler text, maybe we'll enter some filler. And it's right aligned right now. We'll go to the left, maybe choose some sort of Avenir font and just bump up the leading. Text styles in this app are going to be your godsend. I'd really recommend setting up text styles. It will matter a great deal, especially if you use something like table of contents, which actually picks from text styles to use. So if you have headings, for instance, that are shared, your table of contents knows about it and is able to author a valid table of contents with great page numbers and everything. Maybe with a text column, you want more than one. So you can actually duplicate columns in this approach. So maybe I have a third with each column of text filled. You can adjust everything about the columns as well if you go to the View, Studio, and the text frame. And from here you can adjust each width to be whatever you want. So maybe one's a little more, 60 millimeter, the first one, and the second one's like 100, something like that. And then you can have different gutters, of course. So we'll say maybe that third one has a wide gutter, so it's on to the next page. And then you can adjust anything from the outside fill of the actual text block to the insets. So you can add some what is known as padding in the web design world that kind of just cushions everything, so you can actually have text that's legible and not up against the actual frame. So that's kind of a neat effect. You don't necessarily need to do that much work to get these effects, and I think I like that about the app so far. I did need to know to go find this text frame thing, which was kind of a bummer, but it isn't a deal breaker for me. So I think once you use it enough, you'll be in the workflow of setting it the way you would prefer and just knowing how to go and tweak things. Everything from alignment to setting a base grid, whatever you want there. On top of that, we have a table tool now. So we can adjust add tables to our document with ease. So it's very nice to see. You can edit this which way you want. It has its own widget or dialog window. Adjust how many widths the cell has, how many cells you have, etc. You feel free to experiment there. In general, I think it's pretty obvious what this does, but you can define whatever you want within these rows. Title, like name, occupation, something like that. Then you're left with just the look and feel there. That's a very default look and feel, but you can get rid of the borders perhaps, or keep the borders, whatever you prefer. Maybe I'll get rid of them, but you'll still have that table concept back in action, which is great. You can actually have a default setting for the format itself, so it's kind of nice. So here's how you'd edit that and adjust the cells, which is very cool. So a lot of things to edit, a lot of things to tweak. I think it's a very powerful app overall. I won't go into all details because there's a lot to cover, but all in all, it's very similar to what I would say Adobe InDesign. Very unique to the Affinity way of doing things. Like in one of their tutorials, they had text wrapping, and what I found awesome about that is it was around a PNG image which had a transparent background, and the neat thing was that the text updated in real time when you did move the image itself, which is something that isn't quite obvious in other apps. So real-time edits like that, I think, is what I really love about these apps, and have really driven me to using those over anything else these days. Hopefully you enjoyed this. It's just a quick overview just to say I'm excited about Publisher. I'm going to be doing more work to cover more aspects of the app. If you have interest in seeing any particular feature, please reach out, leave a comment, or let me know in any which way you can. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the upcoming Affinity Publisher videos.